Hello everyone, Anand here, back with another video, and in this video we are going to take a look at the concept of promise in JavaScript. So what is a promise? In general English, a promise is a token or an object which holds a value in future. So now suppose you are planning a trip to Delhi, and what you would do is you would book a ticket. So this ticket is your promise that in future when you are boarding the train or your flight, you are guaranteed a seat. So this ticket is your promise of your seat. Now take another example. Now suppose you are borrowing a book from a friend. So you borrowed a book and told him that you would return the book after one week. So your words are now the promise. These are the promise to your friend that you will return the book after 1 week. So similarly in JavaScript also we have a concept of promises. A promise in JavaScript is simply a placeholder object which holds the result when we get it from the desired place. For example, you're making a GET request from and suppose an API, and you are getting back some data. So this is just an example. This isn't even a real code, and this won't even execute. So what I'm trying to say is, this is some data which you will get from this API call. So what you would want to do is, suppose you would want to pass it to a function which is known as process data, and you want to pass this. But the thing is, this GET request may take anywhere from 200 milliseconds to 2 seconds, suppose. Because you are on a slow connection, it will take 2 seconds. If you are on a fast connection, it will take 2 milliseconds. And what you can do is timeout functions which will wait for some time and then execute this process data function. But the thing is, you do not want to have a delay in your JavaScript code or basically any code. You want to execute this process data as soon as you have this data available with you. But how would you know after how many seconds you get the data from this API? This is where promises come into play. I'll show you how we can use promises in our code. First, I'll declare a variable called myPromise. This will use the promise constructor to create a new promise. This promise constructor takes an executor function as its argument, and this function takes two parameters, and by convention they are named as resolve and reject. Now I'll declare an if statement here which will generate a random number between 0 to 100. So math.random into 100. If that is greater than, so the number which is generated is greater than, let's say 30, or let's say if the number is greater than 80, I would resolve this. You shall pass. Oops, yeah. So it would say you shall pass, or otherwise it would reject it. You shall not pass. So in 20% of the cases it will say you shall pass, and in 80% of the times you shall not pass. So now let me show you how you can use this promise. So my promise, and you can see that it gives me the output as then and you shall pass. So actually the value generated by math.random into 100 is actually greater than 80. So that is why we got a resolve function. Now let me show you how to properly catch this. So we will be using then. So then takes two functions as its parameters, resolved and on rejected. So both these functions are actually not defined yet. So let me just quickly define those. And this will take some data. We will simply console log that data. And similarly for on rejected function, and we would move these before here. So as you can see, 80% of the times it will say you shall not pass. If you run it again, you see you shall pass. If you run it again, you shall not pass. You shall pass. You shall pass. You shall not pass. You shall pass. You shall not pass. Now, as we have only one console log statement, what we can do is we can just remove these functions, and we can also write these in line like this. So the first function was resolved, so I'll simply say resolved data, and I'll then console log it. Similarly, for this on rejected function, I can do the same. Rejected data, and the same I will do for this. Console log rejected data, and I'll break it into 2 lines for easy readability. So there we have it. I'm not sure why that is not coming up in here, but as you can see, we have the output down here. You shall not pass, you shall pass, you shall not pass. However, for the sake of this tutorial, we'll switch back to the functions, and let me just quickly switch back. So as you can see, we are now back with our functions, and what I want to do is, so in production systems, it's usually a good practice to show error, to throw errors instead of just logging your custom error messages. So what I would do is I'll create a new error object by using the error constructor, and as you can see, this error object will be thrown every time the value is less than 80. So here, you shall not pass, and this is actually an error object. Now there's one more way to catch an error if that happens, and that is, instead of using on rejected in the then call, you can also use .catch, and this also takes a function, and we will simply say on rejected, and yeah. Now let's see if I reject it like this here, and if I throw an error using the throw keyword in JavaScript. So every time I should be getting you shall not pass, and we will simply say this from reject, and here we'll say from throw. And I swear I know the spelling of throw. Okay, so every time we run it, we will never get to on resolved, because we are only rejecting or throwing an error. But the thing is, you have to observe that even if we throw an error, we never explicitly call the reject function. But even then, JavaScript is smart enough to know that if we throw an error, then that is supposed to be rejected. So that is why you are getting this console log, which is from the throw. And if I run this multiple times, from throw, from throw, from throw, from reject. So that is how you can use error objects in your reject functions, and they make debugging a lot easier. So what is the benefit of throwing an error like this? If you see the console here, you can see the error message which is generated here is in the form of an error object. I mean to say that it gives you the line number, and it makes the debugging process really easier. So if I just click here, it will point me to the line which has the error. So this is just a neat trick which you should include in your coding standard so that debugging process becomes easier. So that was all for this video. In the next video, we'll take a look at another JavaScript concept. So till then, if you like this video, please leave a thumbs up. If you didn't like this video, please let me know in the comments why didn't you like this. If you have any questions, shoot them in the comments below and I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you for watching and have a nice day. Happy coding.